Generac released a new firmware update that will allow for two separate features: AC coupling to PV inverters and the integration of AC generators. Today in the pitch, we're joined by Wes Williams, product manager with Generac, to discuss all those updates and more. Hey there, Wes. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Generac released a new firmware update that will allow for two separate features: AC coupling to PV inverters and the integration of AC generators. That's a standout announcement because historically your power cell system has focused on DC coupling to solar and battery storage. So I guess let's start on that side, the solar and battery storage. Why the change?
I want to make it clear that DC coupling is still something that is going to be kind of the standard operating factor for our power cell. What we're really doing is just adding some additional capabilities. Our standard power cell can now also be AC coupled. And there's a lot of reasons for that. The biggest one is that AC coupling is traditionally viewed to be the easier way to go when there's already solar on the home. And a lot of people out there are in that position. DC coupling offers some great capabilities, especially when you're off grid or when there's a grid outage. It's also more efficient overall, which is a reason why a lot of people go for that for new installs. But when it comes to solar already being on the home, AC coupling typically makes the most sense. And that's something we wanted to be able to offer as a manufacturer in the business. While we really love to have our system that's Generac and PowerCell all the way around, we also want to make that available to people who can't take advantage of the DC coupled side of things, but really like the look of our battery and want to be able to integrate that into their own solar system.
AC coupling versus DC coupling PV and storage systems is a consistent topic of conversation. Is there anything else you'd like to toss in there in terms of the pros and cons of AC coupling in particular?
There are some schools of thought that AC coupling might be a better option if your main point is providing power directly to home loads rather than storing it. But that is something that DC coupled, at least the PowerCell DC coupled solution, can offer as well, of taking solar power and providing it straight to the home. So in my sense, the cleaner install for retrofitting to existing solar is really the main benefit of AC coupling. Beyond that, DC coupling just makes sense in almost every other scenario.
Are you seeing new solar customers going with an AC coupled configuration? I mean, it doesn't seem like they should, like you said, but I'm just curious what the market is bearing right now.
It is something we see, and there's some understandable reasons. The big thing is that solar-only installs have been kind of the name of the game for a really long time. So a lot of the big installer companies out there maybe have a brand or a couple of brands that they're pretty dedicated to. They're familiar with it. They're comfortable with the install. Maybe they've even built their business around it, so they're somewhat committed from a business point of view. And that's very understandable. What we're doing by allowing PowerCell to be AC coupled is we're allowing these installers to judge for themselves if our battery is something they like the look of. And if they determine that it is, then it's something that'll work with their favorite inverter brand as well.
Are there any keys you want to throw out for correctly sizing a system, matching the existing PV that's there?
The big thing to always keep in mind is that you need to look at the charging capabilities of the battery inverter. For PowerCell, the nameplate is 7.6 kilowatts. So at any given point, especially during an outage, you're going to only be able to support a maximum of a 7 kilowatt array. Now, we are going to offer guidance for people who have a larger array than 7.6 kilowatts. But anything beyond those 7.6 kilowatts is going to be managed by a separate inverter, so that in an outage, the only thing that's actually AC coupled to our system is something that our system can handle.
Have there been advancements in battery and inverter technology that streamline AC coupled systems and improve the installer portion of things, the installer efficiency? Like, what comes to mind is, the backup loads panel, or are we still needing to do that? Or is there, just anything that technology is maybe more taking better care of than it used to?
For Generac's point, that backup load panel is something that we were able to get around shortly after we launched the PowerCell product. Actually, we have a whole home install configuration that takes advantage of existing technology that Generac had from its generator days, of smart load management, smart transfer switching, and we combine that technology with our power cell to offer a really robust and intelligent backup solution that's going to also work with our AC coupled feature. So the way we design it is AC coupling will allow you to take advantage of AC coupled PV during an outage as well, and potentially have power available to your whole home.
And thanks for that mini segue there. Let's transition into the generator side of things. As mentioned at the top, Generac is now rolling out the ability to AC couple generator to a PV system. And last year you announced a DC generator product that would specifically be charging a battery in a PV plus storage system, which is pretty cool. So can you compare and contrast?
The generator program, both of them really make sense because obviously most people will be aware that Generac has its roots in generators, both portable and more notably the automatic standby generators. Our DC generator is something that makes a lot of sense for people who are going to be more solar focused. They want a simpler install, something that's going to run quieter and more fuel efficient. The big takeaway here is we just want to have options for the different customers and their different energy needs. The AC generator integration, a big driving factor behind that is that there are a lot of people out there with our existing AC Guardian standby generators already on their home. And right now that's a bit of a complication when you want to add solar because you have two power sources that are going to be generating power autonomously during an outage, and they weren't designed to work together. And that's really what we're going to be changing here. With our new feature upgrade, PowerCell is going to be able to assert a certain level of control over your generator. Normally, when an outage occurs, the generator is going to pop on automatically, and that's just how it's designed to work. With our new feature, PowerCell is going to be able to take a look at the user preferences, take a look at how much battery charge it has, and it'll have the ability to say, hold on, generator, you stay off for a while. We're going to use battery power instead as our backup solution. And then once your battery gets low, then PowerCell has the ability to tell the generator to turn on, take over the home loads, and even charge the batteries back up using generator power. Best thing about this is that it's really configurable based on customer needs. So if you want to just focus on using a generator for every outage, you have that option. If you want to focus on battery as much as possible and only use a generator for longer extended outages, you can do that too.
We were talking about retrofit options for existing solar customers before. This almost seems like you're now having a retrofit option for crazy amount of Generac customers that are already out there with their AC generator. Now they're going to maybe have more options to now upgrade to solar and your power cell system.
Absolutely. And for customers who already have a generator, we're able to now sell them on the benefits of having solar and storage, not just during an outage, but also while the grid is connected as well.
And to clarify, if I have an AC generator already, can I just add PV without the battery?
That's not a configuration that we focus too much on because part of what we're really trying to offer is a variety of backup solutions, and that's really where the battery shines. Thinking off the top of my head, it should work if you wanted to have solar for especially grid connected purposes and then have that generator there for your main backup solution. That should work just fine.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking for, maybe some customers in the Midwest who maybe have still like a good net metering rate, they're just interested in solar for that ROI purpose. And then maybe the battery's too expensive for that investment right away, but they want to have that backup. And so maybe this just still having the generator with the PV is kind of all they need. I was just curious if that setup would work.
That really, I think, hits home the great point of having a variety of different solutions for where people are with their energy needs, and also knowing that that's something that changes over time. So someone who was once good with just a generator may find that a solar arrangement makes sense for them now, and then down the road, some battery storage also makes sense. And we're happy to be there and kind of help guide people towards the right energy solution. We'll have a number of different operating modes depending on what the homeowner wants to do. One that we expect to see a lot of use is exactly what you described, where you're going to start off maybe using your battery power as your main power source. Once it gets low, it's going to switch over to the generator that's going to take care of the home and charge those batteries back up. And then once batteries are a good spot, they're going to take over again and turn the generator back off.
Because the key from the homeowner's perspective, obviously, is not having to do anything, right? Just like I invested in this, and this thing should just be able to kind of operate autonomously on its own. So I still have power, and it's doing it in the most economically efficient way. So that's good to know.
Exactly.
AC coupling installations are easier, as we mentioned, but there's still, chances for errors if the system isn't sized correctly, as we were also talking about. What are some notes of caution to make sure that systems are resilient? So for instance, like a low battery voltage can cause issues in AC coupled systems where there's too much energy pulled from the battery bank in an outage, cascades throughout the system, shuts down the inverter. It just causes issues for turning the system back on until grid power is returned. So that's one scenario. But I'm just curious, do you have advice on making sure that installers avoid potential problems when, going AC with an AC coupled system?
One of the nice things about many DC coupled installations is the system has the ability to really pop itself on when the battery gets low to check for solar power and get it directly into that battery. When you have an AC coupled solution, especially using multiple inverters and multiple systems, you don't have as much close cohesiveness in its communication and power transfer. This is something that's going to be a limitation for us as well. Part of how we're going to help customers get around this is we are launching this feature to be for our what we call our M6 configuration. That's a PowerCell battery cabinet with a fully loaded 6-module configuration. Having extra storage power is going to help you get the most out of this system, and it's also going to help avoid those scenarios where you are producing more power than the battery has room to store. And also have not enough storage power to offer during an extended outage. For people who are really interested in having a robust and intelligent backup capable battery, the DC coupled solution might be a better option if it's something they can do for their home.
Well, hey, Wes, thanks for taking the time to walk us through all this today.
Yeah, absolutely. It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.